Hi ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Green and I'm making this video for you so that you can get a little tutorial on polynomials. Okay, so I'm sending this to you because when you took the polynomial test you didn't make above a 74, and I want to give you an opportunity to retake the exam, but before I do that I want to give you this little tutorial so that you can know what's going on. First, some vocabulary terms, okay? There's some terms. There are different types of equations. When it's asking you to classify equations, what you're looking for are how many addition and subtractions you see in there. That's telling you how many terms that you have in the equation that you're looking at. A monomial means that there's no additions. There's only one term. It doesn't matter how complicated it is. You can have something to the third power, to the fifth power, whatever it is, but there's no addition in there, no subtraction in there, one term. It's a monomial. If you see one addition or subtraction in there, that makes it a binomial because there's two terms. This is one term, and this is one term. If you see three terms in there because you've got an addition and a subtraction, or two additions or two subtractions, those three terms become a trinomial. Even though there's not a power in here, it doesn't make any difference about that. It makes a difference as to how many terms there are. That's what trinomial means, okay? A general term for all of them would be a polynomial. If you have anything above 3, you're going to call it just a polynomial. If it's a binomial, it could be a polynomial. More specifically, it's a binomial. If you get asked and you've got the choice on this one here, if it's a binomial or a polynomial, call it a binomial. You wouldn't want to call someone a human if they were a girl or a boy. You would call them a girl or a boy. You wouldn't call them just a human. That's a more general term, okay? Now, another way that things could be classified would be by their power, okay? This one is to the fourth or fifth power because this is a 1, this is a 1, and this is a 3. So 3 plus 1 plus 1 is 5. This is to the fifth power. This one, the highest order term is this x squared, so this one would be to the second power. This one, that's to the first, that one's to the first, but this one, these are both to the first, so this is x squared. I'm sorry, this is to the second power term, okay? That's the way you classify polynomials. That's the way you classify these type of equations. Now, I gotta bring up what is a prime. There's a question on the test that says, what are the prime numbers? Prime means that it's got two factors, one and one other factor, okay? So when you multiply those two together, it gives you the term, but what you're looking for, if it's one and nothing else, or one and itself, then it's a prime number. So if we're looking at a polynomial, when can a polynomial be prime? When one of the zeros, one of the places where it crosses the x-axis is at 1. Let me give you an example here. We got 3x squared minus 10x plus 7. If I factor this down, I get 3x minus 7 times x minus 1. So these factors are 7 over 3 and 1. So 1 is a factor here. Since 1 is a factor, this would be a prime number. How do I do this? If I don't know how to do the factoring, how do I determine if this equation is a prime factor? I'm sorry, if this equation is a prime equation? Well, one way you can do that is go to the graphing calculator. Key it into y equals. Look at the point 1, 0. That means x is 1, y is 0. If that point is on the graph, then yes, it is a prime equation, a prime polynomial. Okay? So you should be able to do that without any problem. Okay. Here's a problem with a polynomial. It says the area of the rectangle shown is 180 square centimeters. Find its dimensions. Well, they gave you the sides here, L and L plus 3, so we know that the area is the length times the width, or in this case it'd be L times L plus 3. So that's where I'm getting those from. I'm going to use the distributive process. That's L squared, I'm sorry. Okay, L squared, okay, not L2, it's L squared plus 3L, okay, is equal to 180, okay? So L squared plus 3L minus 180 equals 0. Now I can factor this. I'm looking for factors of negative 180. Well, that add up to 3. So negative 12 times 15 is 180. So L minus 12 and L plus 15 would equal 0. This is the factored form of that equation. Okay?
So I wouldn't have the distractions.
Cool? So that means that either L minus 12 equals 0 or L plus 15 equals 0. If I add 12 to both sides of this, I get L is equal to 12. If I subtract 15, I get L is equal to negative 15. A negative number in this situation doesn't make any sense. I'm going to throw it out, not use it. So my L is 12. That means my L plus 3 is 15. Just happens to work out to be the same number. You got to be careful of that. It's not always going to work that way. You don't just use the negative and make it turn it into a positive, okay? You have to get the one that's the positive one and put it back into the equation to find what the value is here. Okay? Looking at this, FOIL. We learned how to use FOIL in this situation. We're going to expand an equation using FOIL. FOIL is first, outer, inner, last. It's how we expand binomials when we're doing them. What we're going to do is we're going to multiply the 4x times 3x. Those are the first terms in both of these two expressions here. So 4x times 3x is 12x squared. And then outer, 4x times 2x. That gives me 8xy. And then I'm going to take the negative y. That's the inner terms. Negative y times 3x. That gives me negative 3xy. Then the last terms, negative y times 2y. That gives me a negative 2y squared. Let's put it all together. Notice how these two terms here both have xy. So I can add the 8 and the negative 3 and I get a 5. That's 12x squared plus 5xy minus 2y squared. 2y squared. Okay? That's how you use FOIL. You do this every single time. Okay?
I wasn't planning on coming into the.
Finding the circumference and the area of a circle. Given that the radius is a binomial, this is a little bit difficult. Okay? So I'm going to take the formula for circumference, 2 pi r. I'm going to replace the r with 2x minus 1. That's what the radius is. I'm going to take the 2x minus 1 and multiply 2 pi times 2x. It's going to give me 4 pi x. And I'm going to take the 2 pi times minus 1. That's minus 2 pi. Well, 4 times 3.14 is 12.56x. And 2 times 3.14 is 6.28.
That's what we've been working a lot of.
I miswrote pi up here. Sorry. 3.14. Okay? And that gives you the circumference right there. That's what you would use for the circumference. If you were trying to find the area, pi r squared is the formula we're using. I'm going to stick 2x minus 1 in for r. Well, we got to use FOIL to expand that, and when you do, you get 4x squared minus 4x plus 1. I'm going to multiply it through by pi. 12.56x squared minus 12.56x plus 1. That's the way you expand those. Okay?
Right.
Going on. When we're trying to factor things, this is one of the things we learned how to do. First thing you're always going to look for is look for common factors first. If you see a trinomial like this, I can see that there's a 3 in each one of these coefficients. So I'm going to factor that 3 out to begin with. So 3 times x squared plus 3x minus 4. That's the way you start by doing this, okay? You always look for that common factor. Then look for some visual or common factor forms that we might have out there. X squared minus 16, that's called a difference of squares. That's x squared minus 4 squared. That always factors into x minus 4, x plus 4, or whatever is in this squared area here. Okay? It's that plus and minus. It's really easy to remember that one. The second one, this one's one you might not recognize right away, but but I want you to note 16 is actually negative 4 squared. And if I take negative 4 times 2, I get negative 8. And those are my coefficients that I've got here. So this one's going to factor into x minus 4 quantity squared. It's going to be that term squared. Okay? Otherwise, you look to the standard form of the equation. ax squared plus bx plus c. I'm sorry, that's the squared again. Made this fast. Okay? Then you find the factors of a times b. I'm sorry, a times c. Made it too fast. Sorry. A times c that add up to b. So if I'm looking at this equation right here, I'm going to take the 1, that's what my a is, and the minus 2, multiply those together, and I get a negative 2. So I'm looking for factors of negative 2 that add up to negative 1. Okay? So negative 2 times 1, that's a 2. Negative 2 plus 1, that gives me a negative 1. So my factors would be x minus 2 and x plus 1. That's how you can use that information to get there. Okay? So let's put it all together. We're going to add some monomials. We're going to do a bunch of things like that. So if I was given something like this, I want to get it in standard form first. So I'm going to add the 5x to both sides of the equation. It's going to add to that term. I'm going to subtract 21. It's going to add to this constant. And I'm going to wind up with this right here. Now, to factor this, I'm going to take 2 times negative 14. That's negative 28. And they have to add up to a positive 3. So if I look at my factors, negative 28 times 1. Well, that doesn't add up to 3. Negative 14 plus 2. That adds up to negative 12. That's not going to work. Okay. Negative 7 plus times 4. Well, negative 7 times 4, that adds up to negative 3. That gave me a big clue right there. I'm going to use 7 times negative 4. That's going to add up to a positive 3. That's my term that I'm looking for. So I'm going to rewrite this middle term here, this plus 3, using those values. See here, I rewrote this 7x and negative 4x. I used the 7 and the 4 here to come up with this. That's the way you can break that down. I can group the first two together, and that becomes x times 2x plus 7. Now, I'm looking for this term, 2x plus 7, in the second one over here, and I can see that if I multiplied everything by negative 2 times 2x plus 7, I would get that second term. Why am I doing that? Because this 2x plus 7 becomes one of my factors, and I'm left with x minus 2 as my other factor. So if I was trying to solve this, I know that this all equals 0. That means that x minus 2 equals 0, or 2x plus 7 equals 0. Solving for those, adding 2 to both sides, I get that x is equal to 2, or x is equal to negative 7 over 2. Okay? That's one of the ways you can solve these type of problems. Okay? Now, if you watch this video, if you'll send me an email saying that you watched the retake video and that you want me to reset the polynomial test for you, I will reset that test and allow you to retake it. Okay? I'll take the better of the two grades that you get. But by watching this video, you've gotten a little bit of a review. You might want to go back and look at the test, see if you see any questions that you might want to have questions answered in tutoring. Get back with me, and then let me know that you want to retake it and that you've watched the retake video, and you will be able to retake that test and get a better grade on it. Okay? I'll talk to you later.